Champions League game week 2 is on the verge of starting, where the elite clubs are going to meet each other. But what are the predictions of those 2 points which will be awarded to the domestic leagues whose teams perform the best in the Champions League, as well as in the Europa League, as well as in the Conference League? So what are your predictions about those 2 bonus points from each domestic league? Manchester United, despite having so many troubles in the start of this season and their hunt for manager is being concluded with Gareth Southgate as one of the options, as well as there are many options like Simeone Inzaghi from Inter Milan. But when is Van Nistelrooy going to rescue this club? Because they are going to face that PSR rule breach where they have to pay 10 million to Adidas for not qualifying in the Champions League. So what are Man United fans waiting for? The Los Blancos Real Madrid have handed a surprise, and Kylian Mbappe is on board to the trip to Lille, where the Los Blancos will face Lille at their home. And goalkeeper Timo Courtois is missing, but the return of Kylian Mbappe has been assured. So Ancelotti, he will not be worried about his attacks in the Champions League. Bayern Munich have contacted Osasuna, and this report is from their committee because their victory over Barcelona and Hansi Flick, despite having so many injuries this season, will be facing the Champions League in their home against young boys. But their chances of getting Frankie de Jong back in the squad will definitely yield some productive results, as Hansi Flick is positive and he guarantees that he will give a good football, some entertaining football at their home. Arsenal have welcomed their new signing Mikel Merino, and his absence from the team was noticeable this summer after his transfer, and he is back in the training session, and there are expectations that he will be picked up in the first squad against PSG this Champions League. Hello guys, welcome back to one more episode with FC RAMSAY, and here we are evaluating the players of the previous season in the year 2023-24, their performance in the Champions League, as well as their contribution to the game, and several members of the squad who have their special recognition. The top 10 best players of the previous year's Champions League season are based on their just mentality, the character, their match winning moments, as well as their sensational stats. So, on the 10th position is Manchester City's Rodri, whereas underwhelmed in Europe by Guardiola, the defending champions were just bowed out in the quarterfinals, but Rodri's level had never dropped, and this classy Spaniard was involved in 3 goals in a total from his position in front of the back four. So from that scoring point, he had scored for City in the previous season of Champions League. But Guardiola is having this man, this fortress injured. But what are the probabilities of getting John Stones at the defensive midfield? So this is what it was for Pep Guardiola's side from the previous season. Next come from the left back position is David Raum from Leipzig. He has criminally underrated despite being one of the best attacking left backs in the world football. But yes, Joshua Kimmich, who has managed more successful crosses across the entire competition, but Rom was the man of the match in the group stage win over Red Star Belgrade the previous season of the Champions League, and he has racked up 3 assists in those. In the last clash against Real Madrid at Santiago Bernabeu, Will Orban, during a fantastic showing, was also a performance from David Ram. Talking about our next number 7th position is Ike Gundogan from Barcelona. Barcelona, it was clear that Gundogan has left for Manchester City, but leaving Hansi Flick's team with full of injuries, and the German was easily the best player in the Barcelona side that surprisingly made its way to the quarterfinals, with Gundogan ranking joint second for assists, and he was the joint fifth for the chances created, and he was the joint fourth for the successful crosses. At 33, this legendary player, he remains an impressive, penetrative player and boasts a winning mentality that many of his young teammates will be awful of a lot of their form. And talking about our number 6 position is Phil Foden from Manchester City. Though Guardiola is quite doubtful about his form, but his expectations of Foden coming back to Manchester City as usual of his previous mentality and character is gonna be soon. But in the previous season, it wasn't quite as decisive as the Champions League, as 7 of Phil Foden's 8 direct goal contributions came against weak opposition in the group stages and last 16 of the stage. but England attacking midfielder was on a target at Manchester City's 3-3 draw against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. So a tremendous talent from a technical perspective. This Phil Foden has also impressed with his link-up play, with no player managing more successful layoffs at the age of 25. Talking about our next central midfield defense player is Warren Zaire-Emery from Paris Saint-Germain, and this youth academy graduate from PSG, only 18 years of age, but he has already shown that he is well enough capable to do some kind of build-ups in the mid game in the midfield as well as in the Champions League arena. The midfielder was man of the match, and the winning performance in the group stage route out to AC Milan was absolutely noticeable, and it was worth tasking. But he was the best player in the pitch draw 1-1 against Dortmund. That sealed PSG's place in the knockout stage. But as well as having an eye for those killer passes, he has contributed those assists too in the previous season, and he has proved himself that he is a brilliant winner. Seventh in the standings for possession as well as winning the ball at the midfield. So that was Zaire Emery from PSG in the midfield. Talking about our next player who has contributed much was that of Antonio Griezmann from Atletico Madrid, who stands at the number 4th position. And 33 years of age, he has been passed. He has announced his retirement from the Les Blues, and Deschamps will be facing Israel and Belgium without Antonio Griezmann. But in the previous season of the Champions League, Griezmann was a major player of the Euros and as well as the Champions League season, because his ridiculously versatile forward gameplay as well as when he sits on the top of the pile for these chances created 27 mass chances were created alongside of Achraf Hakimi from PSG, the right black player. He, despite having Atletico Madrid going out in the quarterfinals, Griezmann was the brilliant during the group stage and netting 4 times in a total of that season, while he also scored in the crucial equalizer where the Roger Blanco steering second leg comeback against Inter in the last 16. So that was Antonio Griezmann from Atletico Madrid standing at position number 4. Talking about the next player who has contributed most and who stands at the number 3 is Joshua Kimmich from Bayern Munich. Versatility of this player at the right backs, at the defensive midfields, at the attacking midfield, and contributing to the team in all the aspects. It is rare that you come across a player like this who is world class, and his positions and his capability of that one fantastic footballer as comfortable in the midfield. While he played during Bayern Munich's dominant group stage campaign, was the right back dominant position where he started during the knockouts. And he has been more successful with his crosses as well his aerial duels won, while he sits third on this list. But it has been just at the age of 28, he has completed 76 successful assists in that season and ranks the number best in terms of defensive midfield position. But he is one of the most complete players in the game today, and his match winning performance against Arsenal in the quarters was too sensational. So that was Joshua Kimmich who stands at that position. Talking about the next was Nicholas Fulkrug from Dortmund. Dortmund had a stint performance at the Champions League previous season, but that bargain why Nicholas Fulkrug has proved at Dortmund was of only 15 million signing from Werder Bremen. So, despite such a low record transfer, he has done brilliantly for the Borussia Dortmund the previous season. In fact, he won more aerial duels, that is total of 49, than anyone else in that season's Champions League. But Fulkrug has really upped his game in the knockout stage, scoring crucial goals against Atletico Madrid as well as PSG. The first touch for the goal and the latter was really breathtaking, as well as he got many chances in the finals against the Los Blancos, but he couldn't convert it. That was some upsetting moment. But this player, Nicolas Fulkrug, really stands tall at this position. But talking about the most impressive player the previous season was Jude Bellingham from Real Madrid for the Champions League, because Jude Bellingham is one of them who is just born to play for the Los Blancos. And Carlo Ancelotti, after eliminating the group stage, Diego Maradona Isco goal in Naples was a particular highlight of this player who hasn't been quite as brilliant in the knockout stage, but he still got 4 goals and as many assists to his name. But it would not be his least bit surprising to see him a cap dream debut season at Santiago Bernabeu by turning it another match-winning display at the Wembley. So, despite having the transfer of Kylian Mbappe, Bellingham has dropped down to his central midfield positions where he is seen very less in the center forwards, but this man, he is capable enough to turn any match upside down, and Ancelotti do have a belief in this player. Talking about the number 2 position is Kylian Mbappe from Paris Saint-Germain. However, his performance ended in bitter disappointment at PSG, but it wasn't the lack of trying from him. After rescuing his team from the defeat against Newcastle in the group stage, this French forward, the Les Blues, propelled PSG past Sociedad in the last 16 before once again just tormenting Barcelona in the quarters. So PSG was capable of doing those upside movements. In spite of the shock Dortmund defeat, Mbappe is still to finish the season in the Champions League joint alongside Harry Kane. So that season, the previous season which he performed, he was with Harry Kane at the tussle and having completed more dribbles that is of 36 times than any player in the competition. Despite worrying of his form at Real Madrid, he is still scoring. But yes, we have a lot to see from this player in the upcoming years in the Champions League as well. Despite the performance of Bayern Munich's loss in the semi-finals, Harry Kane from Bayern stands at this position, and his this Tottenham striker who couldn't have done much more to keep Bayern in the Champions League hopes, he was still alive with it. Kane was directly involved in 12 goals in 12 games the previous season in the Champions League, and they three more than any other player ahead of the final. Once again, this underlined world-class striker, the centre forward, the target man, as well as his awesome all-round game coolness under pressure, particularly when sticking away a penalty against Arsenal. So Thomas Tuchel's decision the previous season to take the England captain off late on in the semi-final second leg against Madrid will remain a talking point for many years to come. So that was Harry Kane at the number 2 position. But the playmaking of Toni Kroos from Real Madrid, he is the jointly number 1 player of the previous year's Champions League. Though he has departed from football, he has announced his retirement. But even previous season, at the age of 34, he was a class midfielder who was a definite operator of the game from the centre back positions as well as in the midfield positions. It's just been a joy to watch him winning the ball and with such aerial crosses as well as those through balls. He was just spraying it around the pitch the previous season with his characteristic nonchalance, which was not required for any other player at this season. But Cruz has completed long passes of 17-8 and anything else in this competition, and yet, despite his pancake for playing it long, his overall accuracy is 95%. That is a brilliant class, and he was a sheer midfielder for the Los Blancos. So, a quite good bit adieu for Toni Kroos at Real Madrid. The most impressive player of the previous season was that of combined from Vinicius Jr. as well as Matt Hummels. Vinicius, who is an incredibly inspirational figure for the Los Blancos, where he rants much for the fans, as well as he has been kept silent by Ancelotti many a times, just patting him for not to be subjected to some racism, but yes, abused by the opposition fans and online trolls. But this Brazilian winger just keeps delivering on the game day as well as for his club during the grandest stage of all, that is in the finals. And going into the finals against Dortmund, Vinicius has set up 5 goals and 4 assists in the previous year's season of Champions League. And once again, having proved himself a man for the big occasion, this player displays against RB Leipzig in the previous Champions League game and Bayern Munich in the knockout stage was really worthy, and there is many expectations from him this season as well. But the most impressive of all for me in the previous season was that of Matt Hummels from Dortmund, impressive centre back who has just left Dortmund, but the best player and the just trainee academy for Bayern Munich. The previous year's Champions League gameplay from this man was not even that good, which can be expected from any kind of angel work at the centre back, because he has arguably never seen such a dominant campaign from a defender in any of the past 10 years season. Matt Hummels has won the most tackles and most duels won, as well as those interceptions and clearances, and second for the possession. Oh, and he also has chipped in the both winner in the semi-final second leg of Parc des Princes against PSG. The centre back is basically the main reason why Dortmund was in the final, though their scoring spree. So this was all about the UCL previous season. So what are your say about the players? Do have a comment, and what are your players ranking of the previous season. Campaign is going to start with Salzburg facing Brest as well as Stuttgart and Sparta Prague. But the game week 2, where we will be having a watch along of Arsenal against Paris Saint-Germain, as well as that of Bayer Leverkusen against Milan. These two matches we will be having a watch along, and we will have a review of all the matches comprising of Barcelona, Young Boys, Inter, Red Star Belgrade, PSG Eindhoven Sporting CP, as well as Manchester City facing Slovan Bratislava. So what are you waiting for? The Champions League game week 2 is just about to begin. So do have a view of it. And yes, before ending this video, do give us a like, do share, and do subscribe. Bye bye, guys, and keep going.